It's
How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a big difference from being out here talking to you than in an interrogation room in a detention facility. So I appreciate your doing that for me. And I wanted to thank you for that. Number one, coming out and seeing me and everything. And there's some additional information that I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm not opposed to doing it over the phone if you've got a minute.
Yeah, no. No problem at all. But how long have you been out?
I've been out for about a month, and evidently there was a bill that was passed that's pertinent to my case. That was, I think it's 3809, House Bill 3809, in which the statute of limitations has been extended, but it's not retroactive. And it's still kind of a gray area for me. I talked to some attorneys this morning about it that are working on my case, and they kind of filled me in about some of that stuff. And I just wanted to say that when we met, I was in a place where obviously I was kind of had my back against the wall, and I didn't really know who to trust with this stuff, and it had been a long time. And I'm sure that you see this a lot with these types of cases because we're dealing with suppressed memories. We're dealing with a host of different things that are associated with trauma that, are probably something that you've really had to get a crash course in from dealing with the victims of these types of crimes. I can only imagine that. That's just pure conjecture on my part. But there's the additional information, the brunt of it was, I don't know if I told you about the camera that these guys had when I was at All Saints. And so I couldn't remember that, but I'll tell you something that was very satisfying for me was I couldn't get any, articles sent into me while I was in the county. They don't allow it. They won't let you have articles and stuff sent in, but in TDC they will, and that's where I went. And I made my statement for my attorneys, and having never done any research on this case, and I know that's kind of something that stumped you up a little bit. You're like, how could you not have known about this case? And regardless of what it was, I mean, I was traveling, I was out of state, I was all these things that just compounded the situation for me there. When I made my statement, there were self-qualifying things in there that were corroborated rather, by other people's statements pertaining to him. And so that made me feel a lot better to think about that, because I'm really doing my best in earnest with trying to figure out, hey, am I doing this right? You know, am I recalling this properly, and so on and so forth. And I think the pivotal issue that somebody like yourself should know about, and I'm sure you've run into this additionally in other cases, is this camera that they got into an argument over when it occurred. And so it looks to me, I mean, in retrospect and thinking about it from an adult perspective, it looks like they probably take pictures of each other to keep the information secretive and secluded. It's like some club where if you want to be in this freaking club, we're going to have the dirt on you to keep it going. And my perspective on the Koss case as a victim and somebody who's researched lots of other cases additionally since that time, looks like they really made him a scapegoat in a lot of ways. And I think that that's kind of mirrored in some of the things that I read that he mentioned. And it's hard for me to want to ally myself with him in any instance. But it sounds like they really tried to keep covering this up at the higher levels. And it may be because they have these treasure troves of these photographs and other things that they were holding on to basically blackmail one another with. Does that make sense to you?
No, I can see that too, and I can't remember, Eugene, what the date was. I'll have to look it up when you and I spoke and stuff. But I will tell you this: that thinking that same thing that you're thinking, I went out to talk to Koss.
You're going to talk to him? Oh, say that again?
I already did.
Oh, okay.
Because, like I said, I was thinking that I'd go out there and he's going to say, look, it wasn't just me. Here's how it went. Here's how the process works. Here's how they, could tell if you're in or not, or if you're in the club or not, or whatever. But to my surprise, he had nothing but good things to say about the church, and he's got nothing to lose now because he's in there for the likes and everything else. He said the only negative thing he said about the church was, I gave them warning signals that I was stressed and stuff like that, and they didn't do their due diligence to take care of me. But, I was hoping to go and get the mother load, and then he would say, these priests are also involved, these priests should have been investigated, these priests should have been arrested or whatever, and I just didn't get that.
Oh, man, isn't that crazy?
Now, don't get me wrong, it's easy to, it's better to offer up one sacrifice than multiple sacrifices, or it's easier to offer up a lower level employee than upper level employee. So some things could have got lost in the investigation. It could have been a narrow search for victims
somebody who's been right there on the front lines of this, do you feel like that obviously there's a potential there for that, but what do you think, just from your gut intuition, if you don't mind me asking you, do you think that he was covering up for them?
I think people were covering up for a cause, and what I've found too is that if it's a manageable problem, they will do whatever they can to minimize it, to kind of keep it quiet per se and stuff like that. But the problem with was it just got way out of hand. They got too many places that they couldn't just, chalk it up to, they will handle this internally kind of a deal.
Right.
But yet on the same time, they allowed this guy, Cost, to go and travel to California, change his name, and work, I think, for, I've got to be working in a law firm or whatever.
Right.
So it was when these warrants came out, they had to go find him and look and and run him down and stuff. So even despite all these victims, and there's not a question anymore of if this happened, it's, how many victims are there, they still assisted by, allowing him to not only go to a therapy place, a place for therapy and stuff.
That place over there at Jimenez Hills or whatever it is in New Mexico?
Yeah, but also, I think that's where it began, but also to come back and kind of come back to the Metroplex and kind of, hang around where he ended up victimizing another one of his victims again, multiple times when they knew all this stuff. So instead of saying, no, you keep your butt at Minute Springs and don't move and don't leave, you got to, and then in Minute Springs, if Rudy Cost leaves, you need to let us know because the police are going to be looking for him soon. They just kind of, thought nothing about it. It's just that's that lackadaisical thought process in this whole thing. It's like it's not that big a deal. Why aren't people making a big deal about it? So what? Come and go as you please. It's more about taking care of costs long term and spiritually, and that's what's important.
Huh, wow, that's just amazing how those things work, and it's interesting to get your perspective as somebody who's been on the inside of that. And I've talked to a couple of different people about this, actually previous to us talking in some other cases where I had a friend of mine. I used to do podcasts and radio and stuff, and I did an interview with a friend of mine named Judy Byington, who is really one of the world's leading experts on satanic ritual abuse. And this is an area that we've seen in the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church and even in the Baptist Church. And it's not exclusive to the Catholic Church. And this is something where it's not to defame the churches themselves. It's that these churches become infiltrated by people that are predatory, essentially. And I don't know how to put it into a spiritual context to a detective, because I don't know, where you stand on such matters, but it is some type of demonic or other type of just an evil propensity that these people have, and it's something that I feel like when we ignore this aspect of it, we're never going to make the proper headway that we did. But I did see that the same week that I guess you did talk to the DA's office for me in Collin County, and I do appreciate that very much. I'm not sure what was said there and what their really stance was, but I had already been involved with, getting a tip and exposing some stuff that had gone on in Collin County to some degree, and they forwarded that information to the Public Corruption Office of the FBI, David. And then the initial detective on my case was a guy named Frank Eric Dockery. Do you know who that is? He got pinched by like a DEA super task force deal with the FBI and a bunch of these other guys. He was a Plano cop for about 20 years, and he was involved in a criminal syndicate running drugs and so on. And really, he was working with China, is what it amounts to. And somebody died that he had served some fentanyl to, and that's when they finally pinched him. And it was a bad deal. And
Wait a minute. No, I think I know a little bit about that story now.
Well,
maybe it was when you told me about it. I think you told me about it when I came.
Well, he hadn't been busted yet. I had talked about Judge Raleigh, who I had got a tip about. That was the judge. Now, Dockery got pinched afterwards. The interesting part about him is that his dad is the chief deputy, like right under the sheriff of Denton County. He's the guy who runs the jail in Denton. His dad. And that's where the detective on my case, Frank, that's where he's at. He's in Denton, and the federal judge, he won't let him out. That's a federal holding facility over there as well, in addition to Collin County, and they won't let him out. And so that's a crazy deal right there, and it's all seemingly somehow connected. I don't know. You hear that expression, there's no such thing as coincidence when we're doing investigations, and to me, this is something that I just don't even want to look at. But what I would say about the satanic ritual abuse thing to you, as a detective in this case, is try not to overlook this. I know the FBI has finally taken, has given some credence to this, but a lot of times, whether it's the lackadaisical mindset or what have you, it does get overlooked, it does get swept under the rug, and it is an issue that is very grotesque to look at. We don't want to see this happening to children. We don't want to think, hey, there's people in charge of child sex crimes like yourself. Imagine if David Clark's on the news the next day, tomorrow, because he got busted for 8 aggravated counts of aggravated sexual assault against a child like this guy Gibbons did in Louisville. This guy in Louisville who's over, you remember the Girl in the Closet series? Yeah.
I heard about that, yep.
Yeah, and so I'm on the phone.
Relationship with he had a case with a 15-year-old girl or something like that, kept contact with her and all that good stuff. That was just stupid. Yeah,
and so is this something that is being covered up for in these different circles? Is something that, man, it's hard for even somebody like myself to really want to delve deeper into, but I just wanted to make mention of the satanic ritual abuse thing to you and the camera aspect of it and this blackmail thing, because we know for sure that between Monsignor Kimmel and Koss got into a fight. Essentially, the last time that I was at that place, I ran out of there, and I told my mom I'm never coming back. That was in response to this camera incident where, you know, imagine that it's a pretty scary and terrifying experience for me to still recall fully, but I do remember the flash distinctly and them arguing distinctly, and that was my opportunity to get the fuck out of there, excuse the language. And so that's when I basically got out of there, and because they were arguing amongst themselves. And so regardless of what that argument was really about and where the cover-up really lies is something that I could conjecture about with you, but I just wanted to make mention of it because it may help you in a future case. You know, that's really the motive of me wanting to call you.
No, I understand. And, I mean, man, it's just, you know, looking at this, it's just, you know, who do you trust? Who do you think's telling you the truth?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that a lot of aspects of it, I'm never getting the full truth from anyone, you know. Not, you know, and not talking as related to victims, you know, and if I say that a victim's not telling me everything, it's because of blocked memory and stuff, which I'm not very an advocate for. I know it happens. I know it's stuff like that.
Are you aware how that's done intentionally so people can? Are you aware of like how trauma-based mind control can create alters in the human psyche that can be intentionally exploited at a later date? Do you understand how that works?
Yeah, I mean, we talk with counselors, therapists, you know, child psychologists and stuff at the Down Children's Advocacy Center, and you know, it's just, you know, if you look at it from afar, you're thinking, oh, this is, you know, it just sounds made up and stuff.
Sure.
But no, this is repressed memory. It's just, I mean, it's a real thing.
Oh, it is.
And if you know, you can pack it away the best you can, so you don't have to think about it, deal with it, because it takes you. Once you just went 2 steps forward, you're going to take 2 steps back. And victims, you know, such as yourself, aren't interested in taking those 2 steps back. But some things in your life will trigger that memory.
That's right.
Trigger that memory. It could be from anything. It could be from, you know, seeing a cross. It could be from seeing a camera. It could be from seeing a certain pair of shoes. I mean, anything.
Sure.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's a very real thing. So used to, when I first started, it was, you know, victim would tell me something. When we went to court, they explained a whole bunch of more things, and now I'm understanding that. You know, I've been doing this for 10 years, so I get why they do it, and I understand it. So,
it sounds like it. It sounds like you've really given a lot of thought to it by now and experienced it as well. So that makes me feel better, because, and what I was really getting at is sometimes these things are intentionally done. What they'll do in some instances, and this is an ancient practice actually, if you really research this, where they'll, if you want to exploit essentially an altar in someone that has been purposefully given to them through the use of trauma, and what I'm talking about is an adult will traumatize, usually ritualistic or other forms of sodomy or other sexual acts, and then physical violence, and that will then compartmentalize the psyche of the victim. And these priests and these other people, they can name, David, they can name that compartmentalized element of the psyche. They can say, hey, this is who you are now. They can essentially program you intentionally and exploit that and revert you to that altar in order for a variety of different things that really gets into some pretty crazy stuff. But the individual that's there's many individuals that have come out and talked about this, Mr. Clark, but Judy Byington is somebody that I did a podcast with, and she actually wound up being on the Dr. Phil show twice since we did that interview, and I didn't know that until I started looking back into this stuff. And she does a great job of explaining what I just mentioned. And so there have been instances in the Catholic Church well, they'll do this stuff, and it's something that we can't really wrap our mind around. There's no reference point for us to say, hey, these guys are doing what to these kids? They're intentionally placing an altar into them to do what? It's completely foreign to, I think, anybody's mindset, and we don't want to look at what this is just as a human being because we don't want to think that other people are capable of such things like this. And the truth is that it has been going on, and so you may run into that in the future. And so I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on a couple of things from an inside perspective about that and say that, hey, these things do happen. It is real, and I'm very comforted by the fact that you get that. So I don't have there's nothing going on with my case, obviously. My senior camel's dead. Rudy Costa's in prison. And so, have you had any problems with Father Kelly? Have you heard anything else about Father Kelly? Do you know who?
I know who he is, stuff like that. We try to talk to him and stuff, and we're waiting to see what the answer is there. As of right now, there's no, indication or anything that he's, done anything illegal or anything like that. He's been around a long time during a lot of this, as auxiliary bishop, he's, he fielded a lot of, the complaints, spoke to a lot of victims and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, I want to believe he's good because he talked, he was there when my dad died, issued his last rites, used to come to our house and all that kind of stuff. And so it wasn't so much it was a red flag to me, it just was an unknown. And I just, is there something there that I'm missing? Do I have a refreshed memory about this guy and what is that about? And so I was just kind of curious about that, but,
Yeah, I don't think, now he's, since you and I have spoken and stuff, he's never came up. I've, not fielded any kind of questions or talked to any victims that said that Bishop Kelly was
good.
To them or anything like that.
Good,
So,
good.
The only, the reason why I want to talk to him is just because he's talked to a lot of victims and, and so, it's good for me to get his opinion on, what was said in the meeting with the victim, what the victim told him, and make sure it's the same thing that the victim told me, different thing, and what did they do in the church, and stuff like that. So
right.
But nothing has come across that he's done anything bad, illegal.
Well, good. I'd like to believe the best in that guy, and I thought that he was probably a really good guy according to my mom and my dad, and so I just want to have faith in that. But sick humor, you've got to keep your humor, I think, especially in a position like mine about this kind of stuff. And you've got to wonder why, David, why they'll send you a letter from the diocese that says, we would like to offer you, pastoral care about something that happened in the rectory. I just think that it's kind of, it's like, oh my God, really? But I don't know, it's kind of funny, but I think that that's pretty much all I wanted to talk to you about. Again, I really appreciate your help with my case, David, and I appreciate the work that you do and so many people that you've helped out. But another thing, I saw that you got a little, well, not necessarily just you, but there was a little bit of backlash about the the raid that happened, that big raid that happened. I saw that on the news. I guess it made CNN all the way down to all the local affiliates around here, and of course they're going to try to spin this way or that and the other. And I guess they ruled you guys had to give some of that stuff back. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that, in this country we play a lot of politics instead of doing what's right. We don't do what's right anymore and everything like that. And so
you said it.
If it's not popular, then it's going to be ridiculed and stuff like that and everything. So, the search warrant had to be done. It wasn't popular, so it doesn't look good. So when something doesn't look good, you got to come out and tell your version of it. And but folks that are halfway intelligent and stuff, they don't. It doesn't matter what they are told. They see what the writing on the wall. They see what was done, and there's a reason why it was done.
Absolutely. I firmly believe you did the right thing there, and really kind of honored to speak with you about it and work with you in any capacity with the work that you've done. I think that it's good, and so hopefully, you've got a big fight on your hands with this, and I know you know that, and so I just want you to know that I see that, and I commend you for being out there in this thing, and so it's a tough thing. It's just a tough thing that you're doing.
Yeah, and like I appreciate that, but it is. But the thing that nobody can ever say anything negative about is that across the country it's a problem. It's not just a problem in Dallas. Dallas isn't the only law enforcement agency doing this. It's a problem. It's been a problem, and it's doing the right thing. And that's why there's no backlash on the Dallas Police Department, Detective Clark, and stuff like that, because we're talking about children.
Yeah, I just think people think you're a hero, man. I wouldn't worry about that little crap that they print in the papers. I mean, everything that I've seen about you has been positive, honestly, besides that one thing concerning that raid where, you could tell that it was politically motivated. Exactly what you said.
It looks bad on them, and, people, like I said, people who are educated are like, well, the police don't just do random warrants, especially something this magnitude, just because.
Right.
There's got to be a reason behind it, and there is, and there was, and I'll defend that till the day I retire, and then some.
Right on. Did you hear about this case? Did you hear about this case against the Bishops Association? Yeah, Dallas firm picked it up. The Bishops Association was, collecting millions of dollars and, investing it in things like Hollywood movies, particularly gay Hollywood movies, as crazy as that sounds, and things like luxury condominiums and other things. And they were, they totally misinterpreted how they were collecting those funds and what they were going to do with it. So there's a major class action about that right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did that come out recently?
Yeah, I forget the name of the case, but if you just Google Dallas-based law firm, you'll remember what we talked about whenever I saw you. Dallas-based law firm and the Dallas and I think it's the National Bishops Association or something like that. You probably know better than I do what they call themselves, but they're all heads of all old heads of dioceses and all that kind of stuff, and they're a big group and they're connected right back to the Vatican. And so, it's a pretty big deal. But yeah, that case was filed just at the end of last year. And so I think that they're going to definitely win that case. I don't think that they would have taken the case if they were going to lose it. So I think that the firm is probably a little bit more savvy than that. But it's interesting to see how these things play out, because I talked to my attorneys this morning, and this HB 3809 passed in September. It went effective September 1st, and it basically says that it used to be 15 years statute of limitations. Now it's 30. Unfortunately, I'm still not covered in that, but we're still going to have a sit down with the bishop and the diocese and stuff and see what they want to do about it. They've requested that, and we're going to do it. So.
Oh yeah. So you're gonna do that?
Yeah, I mean, I might as well. I don't have anything to lose. I don't have to take what they want to offer.
Certainly.
And
who's going with you?
I'm represented by Hilliard, Munoz, and Gonzalez. They're a firm out of Corpus Christi, and they're real nice. It's an issue where they've got so many cases. There's so many calls coming in about this, and it's something that, when you're a firm, you have to figure out what's best for the firm and what you're going to do. And they've worked on it diligently for me for quite some time now, since about, December of 2018. So the end of 2018 is when I made that first call, and that's really what led us to call you, honestly. And so it was interesting to talk. She called me back this morning and said, they passed this thing in September, and we were going to try to see what we could do with it. And she talked to the guy who handles the cases nationwide. And, we don't have this huge chip to go say, hey, we're going to do this, that, and the other. But there's other ways of handling things like this. And certainly it's not something that I ever got into for any type of real gain. I was more trying to figure out what the F happened to me and how I could help other people in the process of, hey, this is what really went on. And so I think my mom has your email address. Can I get your email address?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
I can give it to you.
Well, let me go ahead and get it, because if something comes up, like an article or something that I think, maybe this will help David down the line, I'd love to forward it to you. And if you get a chance to look at it, that's great. If you don't, I'm sure you're really busy. So it would just make me feel better, as long as you don't mind.
Sure, no problem at all. It's David.Clark, CLARK, at DPD. DallasCityHall.com.
Okay.
Yeah, I found that website you're talking about.
Which one? Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's they call it the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, UC,
right.
or USCCB.
That's right.
misleading soliciting millions of dollars in charitable donations are converted into private investments. That's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think that that's definitely going to pan out for the claimants on that case. Eventually, I don't think that case would have been filed if they were going to lose it, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And these guys are pretty slimy, to be honest with you. What do you think about Pope Francis from your perspective? Do you think that he's really in this to win this, or do you think he's still there to cover this stuff up?
It's hard. It's just, you read the Pennsylvania grand jury report, and you hear what these bishops, say out in public, but then you look at what their actions are, and so you just can't believe anything. You got to show me,
right?
For me to be a believer. Talk is just cheap.
Yes, sir.
It's what it is. It's as valuable as it is, the amount that it's coming out of. Until you show you're doing something, then we'll be believers.
Yeah, exactly.
Until that point, like I said, when you're talking about sexually abusing kids, there's only one stance you can take on it. But publicly, you can't say, well, the kids are at fault, or let's see what happens in court. No, you say we got to fix this problem. But what do? Where's your loyalty toward the victims or toward the clergy?
Yeah.
And in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and maybe even the 2000s, the loyalty was toward the clergy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And until that changes, until the Pope changes that, then I'll be a believer. Just talking the talk is, you got to really walk it. You got to do what's right. So, in my eyes, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% on that. That makes me feel good that that's where you're at. It gives me hope in even the justice system and the law enforcement community to hear you say that. I think that you're probably right where you should be. I think that a lot of times people in your position become politicized themselves, to be frank with you. And so it's refreshing to not see that that's something that we're dealing with you, because I think that we've seen it in some other places. Obviously, we've seen it in other law enforcement circles, even how the corruption will leak in to the law enforcement community, even through, the church. And so how that works is a complex situation, something that I don't know that much about, but doesn't sound like they've gotten to you, so that's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter, like I said, it doesn't matter who you are. Wrong is wrong, and I've put a lot of people, a lot of professions in jail over something. Nobody's immune to it. Anybody can do it. I don't care your degree. I don't care, how much your worth is. I don't care the position you hold. Anybody's susceptible to that behavior, and that's that's what I know going in. I don't care what uniform you're wearing or anything like that. If it's good and if you did it, and it's stuff we can prove, we're going to go to court on it, and let the pieces fall where they may.
Yes, sir. Yep. Well, good for you. Okay. Well, I appreciate it, man. I don't think I've got anything else, and if I do, I'll send you an email. And if something comes up, you're more than free to get in contact with us. That's always open for you. If there's some way that I can help you answer a question, whatever, please don't hesitate to do that. And
no, we'll do that, Mr. Irvin. I appreciate you giving me a shout, man. It's good to hear your voice. And
thank you.
And
thank you.
Holler at me, keep me updated, email me anything you hear that you need me to know. Know about that meeting, how it goes.
I certainly will do that. I absolutely will do that, David. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm.
You bet, buddy.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bishop Kelly is with us. Jeff Gilmore is with us as well. He's from my office. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Bishop Kelly. Nice to meet you both.
Likewise.
I think we're just waiting for Eugene's video to load here.
How's that?
There we go.
Oh. Okay. Very good.
I'm a
This is a call between myself and some attorneys at Jackson Walker LLP, who represents the Catholic Diocese of Dallas, Texas, in this instance regarding a sexual abuse claim
Together?
with
Okay, that's what I thought.
myself and a man named Rudy Koss, who was really a very fundamental case for the way that these proceedings were handled subsequent to the ruling in that case, and it was a major deal within the church itself. And they denied my claim based on completely illegitimate pretenses, and the fact that Auxiliary Bishop Kelly, who at that time was just Father Kelly, when I knew him, he admits that he was there with myself and Koss very clearly, which unsubstantiates their claim as to why they did not allow me to receive the financial compensation that I'm entitled to under Texas state law, even though we've had new rulings. There's more to this, and some of the memories have been suppressed in that case, and it's my understanding, certainly, that you are eligible due to that fact if you do have those repressed memories. And so I'm going to play just a brief bit of that for public record, because this is a big deal. My attorney that was representing me didn't even ask the questions if we were there together. I had to ask this myself, and it really makes you wonder what's going on with that. But Jackson Walker is a very old and prestigious firm, and they've got their fingers into so many different types of business internationally, and certainly within Texas and in the United States, that they have a very vested interest for this information not to get out. And it's really the Achilles heel for them to have done this, to get, it's like something getting stuck right in their Achilles heel, because it's just, it was a bad move on their part. So I'm going to go ahead and get back here to that real quick.
And so
Koss was still at the church serving as a priest.
he must have been, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Father Kelly that came in and replaced him. Is that correct?
We were there for a while together.
You and I were.
He left a year before I left. We were there.
You were there together?
We were there at time.
Okay, that's what I thought. I definitely remember the two of you being there together. And so I find that interesting. Yeah, I remember that. And so I've, it's hard for me to put those pieces of the